Stop. Before you keep scrolling, I need 30 seconds of your time. Because what I'm about to show you is not a theory. It's a sequence of facts that, when you line them up in order, they point somewhere nobody in mainstream media is willing to go yet. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, a pacemaker keeping her alive, barely able to walk to her mailbox, vanished from her home in the middle of the night. Her daughter Annie was the last person to see her, and when Annie found out something was wrong, she waited, not minutes, hours, before calling her famous sister Savannah. And then there's the note, not a ransom demand, an apology. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see this case in a completely different light, and you will understand why the family may have already known the truth for weeks while the rest of us were still searching. Let me paint you the picture of Nancy's last known night of freedom, because the details matter more than people realize. January 31st, 5:32 in the evening, Nancy gets into an Uber. She's heading to her daughter Annie's house for dinner and board games. By all accounts, a warm, ordinary night. The kind of evening you don't think twice about. But here's what you have to understand about Nancy Guthrie. This is not a woman who goes anywhere alone. She was in tremendous pain. Her daughter Savannah described it this way: on a good day, Nancy could walk to the mailbox. Most days, she couldn't even do that. So Nancy Guthrie does not just disappear. Someone takes her. After dinner, her son-in-law Tommaso drives her home. He watches her go inside. The garage door opens and closes at 9:50 p.m. That is the last confirmed moment Nancy is alive and safe. Now set a timer in your head, because what happens in the next 4 hours will define this entire case. 1:47 a.m., Nancy's doorbell camera goes dark, just stops recording. 25 minutes later, a separate motion sensor detects movement around the house. Then at 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker disconnects from the monitoring app on her phone. Read that again slowly. Camera cut. Movement detected. Pacemaker goes silent. All within 41 minutes. Someone didn't just stumble upon Nancy Guthrie's house that night. They knew the camera. They knew the layout. Investigators believe the suspect had been watching the house for weeks, specifically around January 24th and January 11th. This was rehearsed. And here's the question that should be haunting you right now. If Nancy Guthrie couldn't walk to the mailbox on her own, how did someone get an 84-year-old woman with severe back pain out of that house in the middle of the night without a single neighbor seeing or hearing anything? I'll come back to that. But first, Annie. Annie Guthrie is at the center of the most talked about, least explained gap in this entire investigation. And I want to be fair here. Law enforcement, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, has officially cleared Annie and her husband of any suspicion. That is a fact. But cleared does not mean every question disappears. Here's the timeline that Megyn Kelly kept pressing on. Annie was the last family member to see Nancy alive. She dropped her mother off that night. And she was the first family member on scene the next morning when everything went wrong. When Savannah finally got the call, it came like a thunderbolt on what she thought was a normal Sunday afternoon. Annie's first words, "She's gone." Savannah said, "I was in a panic. I said call 911. Annie's response, "I did. They're already here." Police were already on scene. Annie had already called hospitals, which means Annie had been in crisis mode for a significant period of time, before Savannah knew a single thing was wrong. Nobody has explained what Annie was doing during that window. Was she searching the house? Was she trying to make sense of what she was seeing before alarming her sister? Was she waiting for certainty? 3 hours. No one has answered it. Not officially. Not completely. Now here's where the case gets genuinely strange, and where the criminals may have made a mistake that could unravel everything. Someone physically removed Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera. They took it off the wall. They clearly did not want footage to exist. What they didn't know, the camera didn't have an active subscription, but certain systems back up footage to the cloud anyway. The data was already saved. It was already gone from their hands the moment the camera connected to Wi-Fi. FBI Director Kash Patel personally released 4 images from that recovered footage on February 10th. A masked man, gloves, a backpack specifically identified as a black Ozark Trail 25-liter hiker pack. He's described as average build, around 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches. One question investigators cannot yet answer. That 40-minute window between the camera going dark and the pacemaker going silent. What exactly happened inside that house? How many people were involved? Were doors left unlocked from the inside? Was Nancy awake when they came for her? Multiple ransom notes, cryptocurrency wallets, a $6 million demand, deadlines that came and went, blood found at the scene, confirmed to be Nancy's. The ransom note situation in this case is one of the most confusing elements. Notes were sent to local news stations. Messages were sent with Bitcoin wallet addresses. One note demanded $6 million by February 9th at 5 p.m. That deadline passed. The wallet? Empty. Still empty after 60 days. And the Guthrie family publicly stated they were willing to pay. Savannah said so, surrounded by her siblings, on camera. So here's the question Megyn Kelly asked that nobody has cleanly answered. If the family believed at least 2 of the notes were authentic, and they were willing to pay, why is that wallet still empty? Law enforcement almost certainly told them not to pay without proof of life. And no proof of life ever came. That silence is significant. Hold on to that thought. Now we get to the detail that changes the entire shape of this case. In late March 2026, a new claim emerged, reported by Megyn Kelly, sourced from multiple people, that one of the letters sent to the media was not a new ransom demand. It was an apology. The letter reportedly stated that the sender did not realize how serious Nancy's heart condition was, that she had gone to be with God. Let that settle for a moment. The kidnappers, if this note is real, are saying Nancy Guthrie died during her abduction. Not from violence, from her own failing heart. That her pacemaker, which went silent at 2:28 a.m. on February 1st, may have been sending its final signal. That within hours of being taken from her home, Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, a pacemaker, chronic pain, daily heart medication, may have simply been too fragile to survive what was happening to her. And now go back to what Savannah said publicly after the second note arrived. The family said they wanted their mother returned so they could celebrate with her. Celebrate, not reunite, not bring home. Celebrate. If you believe those notes are authentic, the Guthrie family may have understood what that word meant when they said it. They may have been asking for her body, not her return. Now, is the apology note real? Former FBI supervisor James Hamilton doesn't think it moves the needle. His argument is this: scammers adapt. If the family won't pay, you change the story. You say she's dead, you can't get paid for the kidnapping anymore, but maybe you can get paid to return the body. It's cruel. It's psychological manipulation. And it works on grieving families. He also points out something important. Nancy's pacemaker and heart condition were public information. Anyone who wanted to write a convincing fake note could have used those details without ever having been in that house. On the other side, Savannah herself believes 2 of the notes came from the real kidnappers. A former law enforcement officer, Maureen O'Connell, argues the FBI almost certainly stopped the payment without proof of life, and proof of life never came. We are left with 2 possibilities. Either a real kidnapping went catastrophically wrong within hours, and the criminals panicked and apologized. Or there are scammers circling a grieving family, exploiting every public detail to extract money from people in the worst moment of their lives. Both are possible. Neither has been proven. And that uncertainty is its own kind of suffering. One more detail that is being underreported: Annie's car. Investigators took Annie's vehicle early in the search. They extracted data from the car's electronics, GPS history, speed records, location logs. The data extraction process actually disrupted the car's systems. The sheriff's office had to take the car to a dealership to get it repaired before returning it. Think about what that means. Investigators are not just looking at where Annie went after the disappearance. They are looking at every movement that car made. The fact that they went deep enough into the electronics to accidentally damage the system tells you exactly how seriously they are treating this vehicle as potential evidence. Meanwhile, the overall investigation has hit turbulence. 57 days in, no arrest. The Pima County Board of Supervisors has voted to require Sheriff Chris Nanos to submit reports under oath after discovering inconsistencies in his background. The lead investigator's credibility is under scrutiny at the exact moment this case needs the strongest possible leadership. Here is where we stand. An 84-year-old woman, barely able to walk, heart held together by a pacemaker, was taken from her home in a crime that was planned weeks in advance. Her camera was removed. Her pacemaker went silent at 2:28 in the morning. A second note arrived, not demanding money, but apologizing. Her family responded by talking about celebration. The ransom wallet has sat empty for 60 days. Every single one of these facts is documented, confirmed, public record, and yet Nancy Guthrie has not been found. If this case matters to you, if you believe a family deserves answers, share this video. Not for the algorithm, because the more eyes that are on this story, the more pressure lands on the people who are supposed to be solving it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because in a case this complex, the next detail could be the one that breaks it open. Nancy Guthrie deserves answers. Her family deserves the truth. And we are not letting this go.